The Triad region remains one of North Carolina's most attractive housing markets, offering a perfect blend of affordability, quality of life, and economic opportunity. As you consider purchasing a home in 2025, the Sharp Mortgage Team is ready to help. With median home prices significantly lower than the national average, first-time homebuyers and families continue to find excellent value in the Triad. And with programs like NC Housing Financing Down Payment Assistance, your new home may be more affordable than you think. Or if your holiday bills have been stacking up, the Sharp Mortgage Team can help you consolidate your debts and put you on a successful road in 2025. Call them today and they'll advise you on the best strategy. Call Ashley and the folks at the Sharp Mortgage Team at 336-575-9448 today for a no-obligation conversation that could be your best decision all year.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.
Hey everyone, thank you for joining us for this month's real estate episode with our guy Blake Ginther. He is our real estate expert. He is with the Ginther Group in Winston-Salem. Information on how to reach the Ginther Group is located in our show notes, and we'll get all of it out there from Blake here at the end of the episode. But Blake, happy 2025 to you. Do you make New Year's resolutions? Are you a New Year's resolution guy?
You know, not really. Not really. I stopped because I don't like lying to myself. And I feel like sometimes that's what I was doing with my resolutions. But I do have focuses, right? A fresh focus, which, Adam, I'm going to tell you, I've been putting it out there to everybody, is I'm now solidly well into my mid-40s. And my focus is at this point in my life to be a better friend.
Okay.
I've obviously not going to change on family, work, right? But you look up, and with kids my kids' age and life, haven't spent a lot of time with friendships.
Yeah, that's a good goal. Won't call it a resolution. That's a good goal. But you know, we have a new ad that we're running for Ginther Group, and it's, you know, new year, new you, but maybe new year and new you means a new home coming into people's lives. This is, hey, everyone uses the new year. Not everybody, but a lot of people use it as, okay, this is time for me to make a fresh start. And sometimes a fresh start is, maybe it's just a change of scenery, a new home. Is this a time of year? Do you see an uptick in people looking to find something different to kind of kick off their new you type of approach to 2025 or the new year in general?
You know, every year is different. I think this year, because we started feeling a significant pullback in the market around Thanksgiving, and normally there's a little bit of a tick up in December, there really wasn't this year. I think we kind of just guessed that there would be a little more, and it started the week between Christmas and New Year's, which was a good trend. More people going, okay, it's time. I've been putting this off. It's time. So I do think that there's a fair amount of folks entering, re-engaging. I think they've been hovering the last year or two, and now they're just re-engaging.
Yeah. Okay. So where did we end in 2024? How would you define the way that the local real estate market closed 2024?
So, and that's what's interesting, right? Nationally, the market went back almost 10%. Or actually,
nationally.
Okay. Yeah, I think it was a tick over 10%.
Okay.
Somewhere between 10 and 11%. Locally, we went back 1%. So, and when I say went back, I want to clarify, not in prices, we'll get to that in a second, but in units, in total sales, right? Nationally, we finished with the same amount of sales as we had in the mid-90s. Like, it was weird, like very low.
Wow.
Locally, we were better than that. We were way above the mid-90s. And that just is a test to the fact that we know what we know, which is more people moving to North Carolina than in other areas. So, but we did still go backwards 1%. My team went up 13%. So super grateful that, and honestly, I think it was just just honestly good fortune, luck, whatever you want to say. I'll take it. But I think most people, that stagnant or 1% decline compared to what we were experiencing felt worse than the data says.
Yeah. So how do you feel locally when you say down 1%? How do you feel about that, knowing that 2024 brought interest rate climbs or higher than normal interest rates? It brought inflation concerns. It brought a lot of reasons why people were hesitant to buy. But when you say you're only down 1% locally, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, honestly, strangely positive. Strangely positive considering all that's gone on and 24 was a weird year for my industry, right? The big national lawsuit that ended up not changing as much as we thought it would, like typical of a big national lawsuit, just paperwork and documentation and a couple procedural changes. Um, but I mean, ultimately, and a ton of money to attorneys. But I do think that it's. I look at it and I go, I feel we're pretty fortunate to live where we live, right? And we know that. I mean, it's very affordable. It is less affordable than it was pre-COVID, right? We know that average price point pre-COVID was just below 200. Average price point now in Winston Salem is creeping to the mid threes. But when you consider nationally,
That's still so hard. I mean, I think it's worth pausing for a moment when you say that because it shouldn't be surprising, but then when you hear it out loud again, you're like, man, it really has come a long way.
that's a big jump. Now, look, it's been 5 years. That's the other thing that is shocking to me because I had a team member join kind of in like peak COVID, and she was celebrating her fourth anniversary or fifth anniversary. And I went, "What? No way!" And it's been a long time. We were in that weird phase for a long time, for 18 months or so, and then there was this post still craziness where the Fed really blew it with keeping the interest rates as low as they did for another year or so. And then the last year and a half, 2 years or so, have been kind of a cluster trying to make up for that. But the end of the day, when people say, what do you anticipate, changing gears to what do I anticipate 25, I do think price point wise, the average home price went up for the first several months, first quarter and a half of 24, and then it kind of some went down, but mostly plateaued. So I'd say it was up marginally, right? Up 4%, 5% equity, which compared to the year prior, which was like 8%, and the year prior, which was like 20%, it felt slow. This year, I would say it will be no higher than that. I don't think homeowners, if they're looking to sell, if they bought in 23 and have to sell, I would be kind of surprised if they made any money. I would be surprised if they made money. They might be able to sell it for the same price or maybe a little better. But when you consider taxes, commissions, yada yada, they will probably be in the red, which frankly that's normal, right? It just COVID taught us otherwise. So I think the equity increase will be minimal for back to that 3 to 5% tops, which pre-COVID we were averaging 1 to 2% here locally every year. So that's still much better. We're
And
still
probably better than the national average too.
yes. I mean, ultimately that's around the national average, but to be average means that there's like these cities, right, that are just exploding like a Raleigh and Charlotte, frankly, Raleigh in particular. But even Raleigh their market slowed down. So I do think, a lot of what we saw in 24 we'll continue to see in 25. It will feel similar. I believe there will be a lot more sales. The national being sub 4 million total sales is weird. We really should be closer to 5 million. I don't think we'll get there. I think we'll be in the mid fours, which will be a nice jump up and probably slightly above where we were in 23, which was low fours.
Yeah. I want to dig in a little bit more to what you said, where you think there'll be more sales overall in 2025. But as it relates to interest rates, am I reading this correctly in that from a mortgage perspective, it doesn't look like we're heading for any significant drops anytime soon?
Yeah, and I think people are frustrated because they've read, right, that the Fed dropped. And so they go, well, the Fed dropped 0.5%, back in the fall. I thought that was going to drop, help. And for a brief moment in time, it slightly did. But not really. And we've said all along, the Fed and the mortgage, there's a correlation, but they're not directly related. Um, and so what I think happened is mortgage companies, they made a lot in COVID. They also got absolutely crushed in 23 and 24. Between the salaries that they paid and their expenses, and what I would ask people is if they go out to eat, or if they, and we were talking about this before we hit record, and I think we know the answer to it, but ultimately, how's the level of service they feel they're getting in any industry? I think most people, and it could be the moodiness of today, will say it's worse. Well, the lending industry, they've had to lay people off. And where am I going with this, and how does this correlate to rates? Well, the least transparent industry, in my opinion, is mortgage. People don't even know why their rate is what their rate is, and they don't know how much their lenders make. And there is a correlation with fees. And it's not just fees like a $8.99 admin fee. It's the interest rate. They are literally baking in. The higher the interest rate, the more that they can bake in fees to the bank and or themselves, the broker, the lender. So that's the number one reason rates haven't gone down, is now mortgage companies are trying to make more because they've had such significant losses. So
Yeah.
long-windedly, Adam, I don't see rates going down in the next month or two. Eventually they will go down, but I think it's hard because the Fed can't lower rates because we just saw the inflation reports.
Yeah, and they've got to be able to curb that.
And their only way to curb it is the reserve. So
Correct.
the rate. So I think we're gonna stay put, and unless mortgage companies lay off enough people that they can lower their rates, because they're not paying for as many salaries as they're currently paying for, right? And I would say it's very important to the consumer out there to shop. So many consumers go to one person, and it is very important to shop, shop, shop. Even government loans, by the way. People think, oh, well, government loan is going to be the same. It's a government loan. No, not true at all.
It's time to get serious about your financial future. It's never too early, but it could be too late to get started. And that's oftentimes the hardest part, getting started. How much do I save? Where do I invest? Do I save for college or retirement? How much for each? And who do I talk to about it all? Okay, we'll keep things simple for now and help you answer the last one. We recommend you begin with a local financial advisor, and that's Jennifer Johnson of Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. She'll sit down with you for a complimentary introductory consultation and go over all of your questions. Get started on the path to achieving your financial goals. Visit 3magnoliasfinancialadvisors.com or call 336-701-1600. Get comfortable with your financial future. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Retirement, financial planning, and investments. Securities offered through Private Client Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Three Magnolias Financial Advisors. Three Magnolias Financial Advisors and Private Client Services are not affiliated. Private Client Services is under separate ownership from any other named entity.
Life is full of celebrations, birthdays, holidays, life milestones, and so much more. And who has been helping generations of families celebrate these events? Our friends at Dewey's Bakery. And even if you aren't planning for something in the near future, you don't have to wait to enjoy something savory and delicious from Dewey's. Maybe you just need something to get you through your Mondays. Drop by every Monday for a free Cake Square Day. No purchase necessary. Just come celebrate the start of a new week. So, if you're hearing this ad on a Monday and you're in your car, reset that GPS and get to one of their 3 Triad locations immediately in Winston-Salem at Thruway and Renolda Manor, plus one in Greensboro at Friendly Shopping Center. And any day of the week, You can find the perfect item with fast and easy ordering options at local.deweys.com. Plus, Dewey's does so much to help celebrate our community. To date, they've given back over $4 million to local schools, churches, and other nonprofits. Your next celebration isn't complete without something special from Dewey's Bakery. Dewey's. Celebrate every day.
Yeah, mortgage companies are in that relatively small bucket of companies that got fat during COVID, right? A lot of businesses really suffered during COVID, but there were some that thrived, and they had to hire, and spend to keep up with that huge jump. And then as things level out after COVID, now they're too fat.
Yeah, and I think that they'll be okay this year because even with higher rates, I mean, I honestly, not to get all like too economic in the weeds of the economics, but the reality is credit card debt is quickly climbing. Debt in general is quickly climbing, and interest and inflation is continuing, unfortunately, to not, to either climb or stay flat and certainly not decline. So, therefore, I think that people will want to explore their real estate options, not necessarily sell perhaps, but unfortunately get a higher rate so that they can cash out and pay off some of that other debt.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that when we call people, it's not a, hey, who do you know that's are you looking to buy, sell, or invest? It's, hey, do you need a name and number for anything? And also, I mean, do you have an open equity line? Would you consider, have you thought about refinancing? And they go, well, I've got a 2 or 3% rate. Why in the world would I do that? Well, you would do that if you can utilize the funds in other productive ways.
Yeah, to consolidate your debt. That's something we've talked to Ashley McKenzie Sharp many times about in terms of reasons that you might try to get a home equity line of credit.
For sure, and people go,
or a cash out refi. Yeah,
and that's what I think. I just talked to somebody, and I tried to talk them into going from a 3 to a 6%, or 3 to a 7%, because I showed their payments on investment property. I looked at their payments. They have a ton of equity in it. And what they can do with the $75,000 cash that they would refinance versus the payment going from $900 to $1,500, they still are well into the black.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't need that extra cash monthly. That's not why they did it, right? So it's just thinking a little differently. I think everybody's so debt adverse, and I respect the heck out of that. And if you have bad debt, if you have credit card debt or student loan debt, then whether your 2 or 3% interest rate might be the right decision.
We've done episodes with Jennifer Johnson is our certified financial planner that we do episodes with. We've done shows with her about, hey, there is a difference between good debt and bad debt.
Yeah,
there is. Not all debt is crippling.
Credit card debt, which is unfortunately steeply climbing in our country,
that's bad debt.
It's the worst.
Yeah, that's bad debt. That unequivocally qualifies as bad debt. So one thing I wanted to ask you about is, you mentioned home sales maybe starting to go up from what they were over the course of 2024, and when we get to the end of 2025, maybe they'll be higher overall. Do you get a sense that people are saying, you know what, I've been patient long enough to see if interest rates do this or that, and I'm tired of waiting. Are you seeing that?
Definitely, and it started earlier this year. It started between Christmas and New Year's. I think I told you before we clicked record that it felt like the stream of business was dammed and was literally like beaver dammed, and we were building a pond, and now it's flowing again, and people are definitely who've been engaged, but kind of on the sidelines. They're all kind of getting off the sidelines, going, okay, politics, it's done. Inflation, it is what it is. Rates, they be what they be. I think mortgage industry and realtors talk more about rates than consumers at this point.
How long, Blake, have we been telling people, stop waiting? It's not going to change the way that you want it to change if that's the reason why you're not acting.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a long time. And I don't think, were they punished by waiting like they were in COVID? No, unless they were renting. And then yes, the cost, there's so many great, if you Google cost of renting versus buying, there's so many incredible charts for how much the benefit of owning, and not just equity increase but tax write-offs, and there's just it's pretty powerful, the data out there for that. That being said, I think that's where people probably lost by being on the sidelines. The market hasn't changed much the last 9 months.
Yeah. So again, we'll remind people of the things that you have to do now. This isn't COVID times. This isn't just past COVID times where it was really easy to be a seller and it was really difficult to be a buyer. You know, you gotta work a little bit on both sides of it. And that's another, like, in January, look, you got all the holiday clutter out of your house. So maybe if you're looking to sell, now is the time when you're already in the mode of decluttering things, and hey, let's get things ready to roll.
And side note, we didn't talk about this, and I know we've talked about some of the programs I offer, but I thought my renovation now pay at closing program was going to kind of become less pertinent, and it's the opposite. We're looking at it more because buyers are back to being pretty picky, like they were for all of eternity, but it couldn't be in COVID. So condition cosmetics in particular matter a great deal.
Yeah. And to remind people of what that is, this is essentially a program where if people need to invest, let's say $10,000, $20,000 to do the unnecessary upgrades, they can do it without having to front the cash right away. You guys offer them a way to take that out of the closing.
Correct. Yep, that's what the program is we'll front all the outfit. We'll come in, we'll give advice as to what options, and that's the thing, right? Everybody has tons of options right now. Most people have equity. If they've owned the home for several years, they have equity. So we'll go over, if they don't want to deal with if they want to just get a cash offer, we can get them hopefully several, and stay out of the process essentially. If they want to renovate, get top dollar, we can go over what that would look like and several different options within that. And then if they want to say, hey, Blake, that's fine, we really just want to put a sign in the yard, sell it as is, we can go over what that looks like. Basically just, I think people have more options now than they've had in the past, and we should just explore them. That's all.
Yeah, very good. Well, we've given people a lot to think about, and I think we're both optimistic in what 2025 will bring. Our local market is still continuing to thrive, and Blake and his team are a great resource no matter which situation you are in, on the buying side or the selling side, or just, want to know what some of your options might be in either way. So, Blake, what are the ways they can get a hold of you or your team?
Well, Adam, I'm glad you asked. Thank you very much. 336-283-8689, 283-8689, or Google us at theginthergroup.com, or, that's Google us, theginthergroup.com.
Theginthergroup.com. They're tremendous, and we appreciate them giving us all the great advice every month here on the Triad Podcast Network. Blake, enjoy the new year, my friend. We'll talk to you as we get closer to the spring. Still going to be cold. We'll talk to you in February, but stay warm, my friend, and hopefully our kids are still going to school. We'll see.
Eventually, yeah. Stay well, brother.
Hey, thanks for listening to this episode on the Triad Podcast Network. Our mission is simple: provide information, advice, and stories about the people and places that make the North Carolina Triad such a great place to be. You can find us by searching Triad Podcast Network on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, pretty much wherever you like to listen. If you like what you heard and want to support the show and those that contribute, we would truly appreciate a rating and review on your favorite podcast app. It helps spread the word along, as do your shares on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Triad Podcast. To get in touch with us, simply email info@triadpodcast.com. Thanks for listening.
This is the Triad Podcast Network.